Dear Sadasyas, we are in the most rich, beautiful, as well as profound shlokas of the Bhagavad Gita. The chapter 2 is a renowned chapter, and its verses 12 to 25 are the most profound of that chapter. In fact, the highest jnanam, atma jnanam, knowledge of the self, is provided in these verses. And as I mentioned last time, that in the Vedic tradition, the benefit of doubt is given to the shishya in case the student has been transmigrating over many lifetimes and is finally ready to receive the highest nectar of Advaita, then those verses are given up front. Because in case that is all we have taken janma or birth for, then we receive them. Either way, when these verses are heard, they plant a seed in our consciousness, and as we continue to contemplate upon them, meditate upon them, they become the facilitator for moksha, for recognition of our truth. So in verse 16, I think, let me just open the shloka. Yes. In verse 12 itself, we are exploring the 7 qualities of Atman, or the self, that Lord wants us to be aware about. And in verse 12 itself, we were given the quality of Nitya, which is eternal. And then in verse 16, we were told that the Atman is Satyam, and the definition of Satyam is that which never changes in any period of time, past, present, or future, as opposed to Mithya, which may be present today, but was not present in the past and may not be present in the future. Pretty much everything, including the body, mind, intellect, and this whole world, is present today, but it was not present in the past and will not be present in the future. Everything will change. So there is a deep contemplation on what is reality, Satyam, and what may appear as real, but it is ultimately non-real, which is Mithya. So we come across the second quality, which is Satyam. And then in verse 17, we were introduced to 2 qualities. One was Avinashi, indestructible, and also Sarvamidam, which meant all-pervading. Another word for Sarvamidam is Sarvagataha, all-pervading. It is when, and to be all-pervading when something is, it cannot be just in one form, because a form will be taking a very definite place in space. But to be all-pervading, it is therefore formless. That's our conclusion. But that's the 4th quality. And then in verse 18, we came across how it is aprameya. Aprameya means it is not available to be known. And that doesn't, I mean, the whole goal of moksha is to know ourselves. So Lord is not saying that we can never know the self, because it is swataha siddha. It is the only thing we know is the self. But it just simply means, when we say aprameya, it means the Atman cannot be known by the regular way that we know everything else in the material world through our 5 senses. So it is formless, and therefore it is beyond cognition of any of our 5 senses. We cannot smell it, we cannot see it, we cannot touch it, we cannot taste it. We cannot touch, smell, hear it. Yeah. So it is beyond our cognition of it is not sensorial. It is not available to our senses. So how many qualities is that? Nitya, eternal, Satyam, real, Avinashi, indestructible, Sarvagataha, all-pervading, and Aprameya, um, unknown, unknown in the material world. So now we go on to verse 19. We will begin from verse 19. And let me chant that first to you. Ya enam vetti hantaram, yaschainam manyate hatam, ubhauto na vijanitaha, nayam hanti na hanyate. Now this is a very interesting verse, because it is saying that he who takes the self to be the slayer and he who thinks he is slain, neither of them knows, in brackets, the truth. He slays not, nor is he slain. So because this teaching is happening in the middle of a battleground, the teaching is based on, killing or to be killed. In simple words, the one who considers this self to be a killer and the one who considers this self to be killed, both of them do not know. This self, this Atma, does not kill, nor is it killed. So what is Lord teaching here? This is a very, very important teaching here. And here Lord Krishna is saying, he's introducing two related qualities, so they are taken as one in the count of 7. It doesn't become 8. But Lord is saying that Atma is akarta and abhokta. What does akarta mean? Karta means one who acts, one who is taking action. But Lord is saying, the teacher is saying to his disciple Arjuna, that Atma, the true self, is not ever an actor, so it never acts, and nor is it a bhokta, which means it is never the subject of that action also. So think of it as a very popular example that is given by all teachers of Advaita Vedanta is the example of sunlight. The sunlight enables life, you will agree. Sunlight is everywhere. Without this sunlight, life is not possible. And under the sunlight, all kinds of activities are taking place: biological, psychological, intellectual, emotional, dharmic, non-dharmic, good and pious, criminal and unholy, every kind of activity is taking place. And these activities are taking place in the presence of that light, due to that sunlight. And yet the sunlight itself is not a participant in any of those activities. It is neither the dharmic person, it is neither the non-dharmic person, it is not the trader, it is not the buyer, it is not anything. It simply is, but if you remove this sunlight, none of these transactions can take place. So therefore, it is almost like Atma is pure awareness, but it cannot be called the actor. And because it is not an actor, because only if you perform karma can then you experience the fruit of that karma. So because it does not, so it does not do that. So therefore, the fruit of that karma as a bhokta or as an enjoyer of that action also do not come back to us, and this has certain ramifications. But let me keep explaining. So I gave the example of sunlight. I can give the example also of space. Space is everywhere. It is accommodating you, me, this whole universe, But, and right now there is space that is holding, all of you, me, everything in it. But space itself is, without that space, we could not be in it. But that space itself is not the teacher. The self space itself is not the student, such as you people. But space is not the laptop. Safe is not the pen and notes that you are taking. But yet, without space, none of this was possible. So therefore, like sunlight or like space, we can say that Atman's presence is required for all of this to be possible, all transactions, all activity to take place, and yet it itself is not a direct actor nor a direct, beneficiary of the positive and negative consequences. Experiencer. So it's neither an actor nor an experiencer. That's the word I was using. An actor, or the one who does action, is called karta. So it is neither a karta nor is it a bhokta. So we say akarta, abhokta. We add a to karta to say akarta means not an actor, not the one who acts, and abhokta, not the one who experiences the effect of those actions. So therefore, now this is very interesting, because all this time you have been told, watch out, karmas are chasing you, karmas are following you. But what Lord is revealing to you right now and really telling you how free you are is that if you are Atma and you are free from all karmas, if you're not the actor, then you are also not the experiencer of those karmas. So you're also free from all karmas. That is what it is saying. And so if you are free from karma, then you are also free from having to take another birth as such to experience the residual karmas, because according to the law of karma, which I'll go into a little more in detail, and there's a lot more teaching on karma coming up in the Bhagavad Gita, but even just I'll just be teaching you some more about it. But basically, um, Atma itself does not take birth. Okay. So because Atma also does not die, we had discussed that it is Nitya. So where is the question of death, and then where is the question of rebirth, and where is there the question of the reason to have rebirth? Because it is not an actor, so it has not accrued karmas. It was free, is free, and will be free. Then what are we talking about? What takes birth? And I will go into it further, but basically it is the ego, the subtle body and the ego that travels, whereas the Atman does not travel. And I will explain this further, just bear with me. But the most important point that you have to understand here is that in this context of the Bhagavad Gita, where Lord was talking to his student who was hesitant about, even even going to a righteous war and doing his duty as a soldier, and doing what it takes, because you can't have a firefighter say, I don't want to deal with the fire. You can't have a soldier say, I can't go to the war. But this is what had happened due to attachments and delusions in Arjuna's mind. So so Lord Krishna, this happens to be a context, but what he wants to say is that even the thought that I am slaying somebody or I have been slain, these all belong to the body. They belong to the mind, as in the ego and the body. Atman itself is immutable, it is immortal, and so therefore I am akarta and abhokta. So this will be very useful, because later on we will realize, because this builds up, the karma yoga is built up around this shloka later on coming up, because if I am not if I don't act, and if I don't experience, and who's doing all these incessant actions? I mean, we can't sit still. We're all the time taking actions. So what's that mechanical thing going on? And then we will look at the ego later. But for you, it is important for you to know that it is a karta and a bhokta. And then, so how is the self immutable? And so in verse 20, Lord Krishna then continues to talk about, he introduces one more quality, which is known as nirvikara. And probably I will write these 7 names and send them to you. But nirvikara means changeless, and Lord chants, न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचित् नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः अजो नित्य शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणः न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे. This is a different meter. In this, Lord is saying that the self or the Atman is not born, nor does the Atman ever die. So there is never a time that after having been for some time, it ceases to be, just like body, etc. It is unborn, it is eternal, it is changeless, it is ancient, and it is not killed when the body is killed. In simpler words, this Atman, your true self, you are neither born at any time, nor did you die at any time. You will never come into existence, like emerge, nor will you disappear. You are unborn, eternal, and free from decay as well as growth. And you are never affected or harmed when the body is affected or harmed. So this is a very important verse. And by the way, this verse 20 and verse 19, the previous one where we were introduced that you are an akarta and a bhokta, both of these verses have been taken from the Katha Upanishad. There is an Upanishad called the Katha, Katha, Katha Upanishad, in which a student, Nachiketa, gets direct teaching from the Lord of Death, Yama. So he teaches about death and reincarnation and all of that. That is Katha Upanishad. And these 2 verses, 19 and 20, are from Katha Upanishad originally. So as you know that Bhagavad Gita is considered as the essence of all the Upanishads. So there are many original verses, and there are also many verses that we can trace to other Upanishads. So from time to time, I will let you know where its relevance. And so these 2 are from the Katha Upanishad. And so in this verse 20, it's really beautiful. He wants to show, Lord wants to show that unlike the body, which goes through 6 modifications, which I have taught you in Tattva Bodh, but I shall be happy to remind you again. But the Atma is free from all those modifications. So what are those 6 modifications? The first modification is Asti. It, while it cannot be seen yet, it's not outside, but it has an existence, its seed form as in an embryo. It is existing in seed form. Then the next change it goes through is Jayate, the body takes birth. Then the next change is Vardhate, it grows, like 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, 4 month, 6 month, 2 year, 1 year, 5 year child. So it starts growing, getting bigger. Vardhate. Then once it reaches a certain size and height and density, then it just changes within itself. It matures within itself, transforms within itself. Cells keep changing, everything keeps changing. Viparanimate. So this keeps happening. So you can't arrest these changes. And then after a while, when you start reaching 40, 45, then we start saying, apakshiyate. You just can't stop the changes from decaying. Some decay, some aging starts happening. 40, 45 onwards, you start seeing it visibly. And then the last change, vinashyati, it perishes. It just ends. So the body is actually the food of the parents. The embryo is made from the food of the parents. And so it begins with the food of the parents. Then it sustains itself with the food you eat. And then when it ends, it becomes the food for the universe. So it is completely related to food. And it continues to go through these 6 modifications. And then Lord Krishna says, but you, Atma, you are free from all these modifications, because it is not anajayate. Atma is never born. Birth happens only of the subtle body, which subtle and causal body, which is the ego plus the karmas, which I will go into. Namriyate, it never dies. There is no end to the true you. There is no end. Najayate namriyate, kadachit, at any time. Okay. Ayam na bhutva, because there was never, you never come to existence at a particular time, because you are nitya. It is unborn. Na bhavita, because it never stops to exist at a future time also. So therefore it is given the name Ajah, birthless, Nitya, deathless, Shashvata, free from decay. So, and Puranaha, what doesn't get old, Vriddhi Rahita, ageless. So, Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. And when your body is afflicted by diseases, etc., it is happening to the body. It may be tormented by it. It may go out of shape because of it. It might be leaking from different places. It might need to be sutured in different places. It might need to be cut and reconnected, depending on which system of medicine you follow. But you remain what? The 7th feature, nirvikaraha. You are free from all modifications. You are free from all modifications. So with this verse 20, you have been exposed to 7 specific qualities. Remember again, in verse 12, the quality of Nitya, deathless. In verse 16, the quality of Satyam, you are reality, because you were never not there. That is why you are reality. You are not a mere appearance that may appear like it's there, but it will not be there later, so it's only illusory. You are avinashi, indestructible. You are sarvagataha, all-pervading, which avinashi and sarvagata is in verse 17. Verse 18 tells you that you are unknowable by ordinary senses. That's why you need knowledge because it is self-reveals itself beyond the senses internally to you. So therefore it is aprameya, unknowable in the material world. So anybody who says, I saw Atma, I heard Atma, it's not possible. I can know Atma beyond, it's a knowingness that is beyond the senses. And then in verse 19, you came to know that your Atma is akarta. All the actions are happening through the combination of body, mind, and intellect. It's a conglomerate. but you are an akarta, you're only a witness, you're only an awareness that because of you these are actions are happening, but you are not the actor, and therefore related to that you are abhokta, you are free of karmas. And finally, in verse 20, you come to know that you are nirvikaraha. You are nirvikara means change, nir means changeless. You are changeless. Now, let me, I plan to go till verse 23 and then I will discuss more with you. So just enjoy this right now. Don't let doubts come in at this point, just receive. Okay, that's the way to receive Shastram, because this is not knowledge that should have to find its way between the crevices of what you already know. This is new knowledge, and then as you contemplate upon it, it is the truth. So it may feel unfamiliar, but just let it come through. So now we come to verse 21. Veda vinashinam nityam yaena majamavyayam katham sapurusha partha kam dhatayati hantikam. So in verse 21, it's in a way like Lord is not teaching something new, but he is summarizing. Sometimes a teacher has to summarize for the benefit of the student. And you can see how a teacher talks to a student. Like sometimes I say, this is how you must learn, or are you understanding, or pay attention. This is how a teacher who is concerned about the student's state of mind, because the student has a more samsaric or a more worldly mind, so it may miss a subtle point. So out of compassion, the teacher says, pay attention now, be alert now, look at this subtle point. So this is how a teacher-student dialogue is going. And so we keep coming across these beauties or these beautiful words that the Lord uses, where he's not just the supreme reality, Brahman, in the avatar of Lord Krishna, but he is a guru in a human form. And he says, Vedaha. The first word he says is Vedaha. And Vedaha here, the teaching is Veda Vinashinam Nityam Veda. So Veda here doesn't mean Samaveda, Yajurveda, Rigveda. Veda here means you must know. So when he says Veda, so he is saying Veda. You must, dear student, you must know what? You must know this Atma. You must know it the way you know your body right now. Right now, who are you? This is me. This is the way we know it. This is me. And at some point, if you keep contemplating, you will know, you will say, the Atman is me. So anyway, so he says, you must know Atma, this Atma, which is Ajam and Avyayam. Ajam is just same thing, unborn. He's just summarizing it. And Avyayam means without decay. So, and to know this Atma, which is unborn and undecaying, should be the aim of the spiritual seeker, should be your aim, dear Sadasyas. So, and why should we know it? I mean, you can study it theoretically. But what happens is, just like because of the presence of Atma, which is Nitya, Satyam, Sarvagata, Avinashi, Abhokta, Akarta, Nirvikara, all these qualities are there. And it is aprameya, you cannot see it, you cannot hear it, you cannot know it through your five senses. So the body, mind, and intellect, they create this, shadow self, this mirage of a self, though they are totally borrowing their consciousness, intelligent awareness from the self, from Atma, and you can't see it, so you think this is you. So it's really, and so if somebody says to you, no, you're not just your body, you're not just your mind, you're not just your intellect, you're also your soul, you're also your Atman, you go, yeah, okay. But the goal is to actually understand that your Atma is not just mixed, it's an independent existing entity. It is invisible, it is formless, but it's there. And because of it alone, everything else is. So it's very important that, and then you claim which part of you. Right now, who am I? I am the body, I am the mind, is what I think, these is my belief systems. So this is where we are identified, and the biggest shift that a Vedantin makes is to say, I am soul, but not the Christian soul that is awaiting, deliverance and salvation, etc., or forgiveness. This is claiming that I am the supreme reality. So it's like, I am not my decaying matter, I am not my confused mind, and I'm not my intellect, which is better than mine, but it is still limited. I am the unlimited, Atman. And this change of identity from the shifting I to the immutable I is the whole, the whole is the game changer here. And so we are we are identified with the non-self known as anatma, and instead we are the Atma. And so when Lord says Veda, he says know it. He's not just saying know it academically, but he's saying know it internally. And that I am that ultimate, immortal, immutable, inexhaustible reality. Now, this is very interesting because, for me, like I mentioned to you last time, these verses are the most meaningful verses to me in the Bhagavad Gita. They're the most complex. But I never let them go. And probably these verses have been the most instrumental in releasing me from my transactions at a shifting I level. And so I wonder what they will do to you. And right now, in fact, if you close your eyes, go ahead. And, everybody from the beginning, the only thoughts, the default, we think, I am broken. I'm broken, But what if you think I am unbreakable? If you just think this thought, this is the new ideas about you, but these are the truth about you that Shastram wants to give us, And we feel so shameful for all our actions and our non-actions. But what if you remember, I'm not an actor, I'm merely a witness. So these are very deeply, they make profound changes at a paradigm shift inside your identity. So each of these 7 qualities describing who you are is like a revelation to you who is fully identified with your body and your mind and your little bit of knowledge in the intellect. Although we are giving it new knowledge, we are using the intellect to give in some paradigm shifting knowledge. But if you start contemplating on each of these 7 key technical words, and I would keep it to Satyam, because if you say reality, English words, I don't know what is your association with the word real and unreal, so you can go for Satyam. Since your teacher works hard to explain every Sanskrit word to you, you can develop a new self-auto-suggestion vocabulary. And so when things were externally challenging, all I had to remember was, I am Satyam, this is Mithya. If I fell down and I hurt my knee and it's hard to get up, all I have to remember is, I am Avinashi. A few minutes later, I get up. Maybe the knee needs some neem paste and some haldi milk afterwards, followed up with some Ayurveda. That's okay. But in that moment, I connect to my immutable I rather than my mutable I. And so these 7 teachings, these shlokas with the 7 qualities, is the treasure of the Gita. And the reason I'm stopping to talk to you about it is so that you don't just say, okay, done, 1 shloka done, now what next? Oh, I'm ready for karma yoga. Oh, I'd love to study about this, but this is just an academic quest. And I have never been a teacher who promotes academic learning of Shastra, because you're all suffered enough. So it's time to change to have new thoughts about who you are and set yourself free. Remember why you are studying Gita. Remember why you are a spiritual student. Remember why you are a Sadasya. Because you want to know God. Because you want to be one with Supreme Consciousness. So you are not just taking a class. I am just not a teacher who's interested in having a resume. She teaches Bhagavad Gita. I just want to tell you that some of these verses have given me sweet nectar of relief, and some of these may be useful to you. Each chapter of Bhagavad Gita is useful, but don't run through it like a train. Enjoy every station and save some old ways of thinking or snapping. That's the invitation. So in this shloka 21, it's very interesting that not only does he summarize a few things, but he also says, there are 2 ways you can be an actor. One is you can directly do something, like I'm directly teaching you. Another way is like I have Aparna or Ananta or some other teachers like Sharanya, they teach you. So I become a agent for teaching. I'm not a direct teacher, but I become an agent. I become a, agent. I think that's the English word. I would become I would become an agent of indirect action. One is direct action. Another would be I would instigate another person to do indirect action. Okay, and but similarly, somebody can steal something directly from the bank, or somebody can instigate others to steal for them, and this can happen. So what Lord Krishna wants to say is that when the Atma is, so in 21, remember he said, it is unborn, it is undecaying, okay? So it is immortal, ultimate reality. And anybody who says that it has directly slain or it has indirectly slain, either way, that person is not correct. So what he's really trying to say is that that there is absolutely no agency, that direct or indirect, that we can subscribe to or ascribe to the Atman. So it's actually a continuation of the Akarta. But somebody can say, okay, maybe not a direct Akarta, but after all, it influenced the mind. No, it just is not a Karta, period. So then we come to shloka 22, one of the most beloved shlokas, because Lord Krishna talks in very ordinary language, like the language of you and I, common people, about clothes, etc. Like, and so it's very popular. And this was the shloka that most, most beautifully gave me relief that, oh, my mother has changed clothes. It felt really beautiful. So this shloka, you might want to memorize it later, but it says, Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya, Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya, Navani grihnati naroparani, Tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani, Anyani samyati navani dehi. So it says that just like a person casts off worn out clothes and puts on new ones, so also the embodied self, the self which is in the body, casts off its worn out body and enters others which are new or more suitable. In simple words, just as a person gives out worn out clothes and puts on new clothes, so also the Atma gives up worn out bodies and attains into other new ones. So in this shloka, in 22 shloka, he is talking about death and transmigration. And the beautiful thing, he just simplifies death into a non-issue. Death is nothing more than changing the clothes or the dress. And after all, if we have to go to theater, we won't go in our nightgown. And if we have to sleep, we won't wear our wedding dress or our party dress. Ideally, we will, because it might have too many fancy things attached to it. It won't be comfortable. So sometimes, we want to change our clothes, and changing our clothes is painless. And by comparing death to the most superficial layer of the Atma surrounding it, which is the body, the physical body, the food body, it is simply like the clothes have been changed. So it's very nice because and and so the teaching is that the teaching is that which will become more clear, but in the greater Upanishadic, the idea is that the does not Atma does not die. We have already established that. So it is the ego personality, the subtle body, the mind, which the ego, we can say the ego entity in the body, it changes the clothes. So it and it wants to evolve. It's on a evolutionary journey. And so it, when it is done with a certain body, and we may decide, no, such and such person died too young, or such and such person had young children and they should not have died. But it's quite unemotional at that level. When we are done with the body, it is done with the body, and it just drops that body. It may feel very tragic to the people left behind, but it is not tragic at all, because it is actually for the benefit of the evolutionary jiva. Jiva is the egocentric personality, not the Atma, but the jiva discards the body, and based on what clothing will serve them better, okay, just for their convenience, what will suit them better, they will take on that body, okay. So this is very nice. So the Lord has many bodies, and we can take on any body for our convenience, for our next set of experiences that are going to help us ultimately self-realize or achieve moksha. So, my jiva, the traveling part of me, took on the body in a certain womb in my grandfather's and Baba's home, because it decided it wanted experiences of a certain kind. Okay, so this is all planned. And whether it will go into plant body, animal body, it may think, although the human body is considered very valuable because of being self-conscious, but sometimes even experience in being a boar or an elephant or something like that, we don't know what is needed for the jiva and for its own experiences. So therefore, the jiva continues. The jiva is invisible, but it takes on a new body. So the death happens not because of disease, not because of age, not because of suicide, not because of decay, not because of the weather, but because that ego entity jiva decides it's time to quit that clothing and take on a new clothing. So sometimes the jiva may only have a 10-minute existence after the birth, and or may only be alive in the birthing canal. So it might be a minute existence, but you see, time also is only in Maya, but it's a timelessness continuum. So that is the exact experience that jiva needed. So we say, "Are re, oh no, the only 1-year-old died," etc. This is just how we all talk, but Shastra says that it is jiva is merely changing wardrobe. And so um, uh, so now let us understand that because I mentioned it briefly, that Atma does not die, then what dies, what ends. So if you remember, I have taught you in Tattva Bodha that there is Atma, and then the Atma is surrounded by 3 bodies. Do you remember that? And for those of you who are new, it's just a brief review. There is Sthula Shariram, or the gross body, made up of food, which we talked about. There is subtle body, which is made up of 19 things. You can't see it, but it's all there. And what are those 19 things? 5 sense organs. Not just the organ like the eye and the ear, but the faculty, the intelligence. The eye of the eye, the ear of the ear. So 5 sense organs, 5 motor organs, which make it 10. Then 5 pranas, or vital airs, sama, samana, prana, udana, vyana, prana, apana, vyana, samana, udana. So 5 vital airs, pancha prana, or 5 types of vata dosha. So these 5, that's 15. Then sometimes it is said 16 parts because they just say mind. But mind can be divided up into 4 parts. So mind includes mind, manas, the moment-to-moment mind, then ego, the I entity, albeit shadowy, but the I entity, ego, ahamkara, then memory, smriti, and then the buddhi, the intellect. So 4 more things. So 15 plus 4, 19. There are 19 organs that cannot be seen, but they are carrying on such housekeeping function in your being. So this is all the Sukshma Sharira, or the subtle body. Then there is a third body called the causal body, or the Karana Sharira. In the Karana Sharira, 2 things live. 3 things. Karana Sharira is basically made up of Maya, or ignorance, avidya. And then in it live the unfulfilled karma, consequences of the karma, because of which you will now exhaust in next birth or future birth. So you are net lot of karmas that you have not exhausted in this birth, so they are left over. Plus you created more karma, or the ego created more karma, so there is some net account of karma that has to be exhausted. Those karmas are there in your causal body. Okay. along with karmas, there is also um, vasanas. Vasanas are your deepest desires, your compulsions, your your um, your ignorant compulsions. They are also saying, oh, I have not had a soulmate yet. I have not had a baby yet. So you cover it up. You've not used knowledge to sublimate it. So it's all there. So karmas and vasanas are like the pressure cooker. They feed each other. So, and you are carrying in your causal body the net account of your positive and negative merit called punya papam. These are all things that are familiar with the students who studied Tattva Bodh, but for new students, the good thing is you can review Tattva Bodh gradually. However, just for now, I can tell you that every time we act with dharma, every time we act from our Atman, from a selfless space, albeit intellectually, it may not be our first response to be selfless. Maybe our first response is selfishness because we are also animals. But our cultured response is selflessness. So we might spend some time offering seva, we might help some stranger across the street and things like that. We might be large-hearted, etc. So when we are dharmic, when we are being dharmic, at that time, say we are helping somebody cross the street, we might get late for our own meeting. Okay, but there was a blind person who needed to cross the street, or an old woman, and we had to go to a meeting. So going to our meeting was going to take care of our needs. And everybody takes care, everybody feels entitled to take care of their needs. What needs? Everybody even loves the smell of their own urine and their own stool. We are in love with ourselves. Everything ours is very good. So our needs are very important. So we are all going in our own selfish way. Selfish, self-fulfilling. We're like phantoms chasing our needs. And we can do that, and we will not accrue necessarily a sin. But what if we stopped? Perhaps we made it to a meeting, perhaps we didn't make it to a meeting because we had somebody else across the busy street. But when we helped somebody across the street, nobody knew about it. But who was watching? There is a witness, not only inside you, but a cosmic witness. All the Atma is one, ultimately. So therefore, you generated an invisible grace card from the all, divine allness, Ishvara. And it is known as Punyam. So Punyam becomes your good fortune, good destiny, or good luck for future. So it is invisible. So when you perform seva, some of you, I am performing seva, Soham is performing seva, many of us are performing seva. Why? Because we believe that this knowledge is important to be brought out. It is important to be told to people, because without that, a lot of people are drowning in the own ocean of their emotional suffering. So we believe that this is a very, just like people spread antibiotics in the third world country or drop food packages in Sri Lanka, sampradayas like ours, we share wisdom packages with jivas who are full of egotism and suffering, not just pride but ignorance. So we believe this is urgent work to get it out. So people who are supporting this seva, it's not necessarily something that we are enjoying. It is not something that it may be occasionally people clap for you or give you a garland or thank you or give you a card, thank you Soham. But at the end of the day, it is Soham doing it, doing it, doing it, doing it, doing it at the cost of watching TV, going to Netflix, going to a carnival, just being there, being there, being there, being there for a bigger cause. So when we connect to a bigger cause, a bigger sentiment that benefits people we don't even know, it's called dharma, right? That is why seva is one of the ways to do sarv. Dharma, not the only way, but one of the ways. So that is called punyam. And we can't stop that punyam from being generated, and that punyam also becomes stored in your causal body. So karmas are there, which will create life situations, good or bad. Vasanas are there, which make you a compulsive person, even in future births, because you have been compulsive now, you'll be compulsive later. Only knowledge can undo all this, but until that, vasanas will keep driving you. And then if you have done dharmic things, then punyam will be there. So it will also be there to help you. And in case you are not only not helping somebody else across the street, you are not only being selfish in reaching your own meeting, but you are actually being an obstacle in somebody else fulfilling their goals. So you are being tamasic, you are being an obstruction, you are being, you are doing negative thought, speech, and action to hurt another, and there is no other, there is only one self, then the negative card is generated, and that becomes bad luck in future. So if you are enjoying luck right now out of the blue, it is because there is no out of the blue. You created it. And if there is bad luck, you were the author of it. I see somebody said we missed verse 18. Okay, I'll come back to it. For some reason, I thought we had covered verse 18. Never mind, we will go back to it. But let me complete where I was. So what I'm trying to say here is that, so what takes birth? What takes birth is so what gets dropped is only the outermost physical body, vinashyati, which always perishes anyway. That is, but the other two bodies, which is the sukshma sharira, the subtle body with all the 19 subtle organs, and the causal body with its basic maya or avidya composition, in which karmas, vasanas, and the net account of punyam, papam, merits and demerits are there. And all of this travels within this maya realm to take on different, to wear new clothing and experience different pleasures and pains and different experiences. And it travels according to the law of karma. So when there is a lot of punya, when there is a lot of dharma that has been accomplished and there is punya, then we move towards the higher lokas. When there is too much papam, we have, done adharma, we have hurt others, we have, sometimes unconsciously we may hurt others, but here we have consciously, deliberately hurt another, then we will go to lower lokas. And if there is an equal measure of papam punyam, then we come back to human birth or manushya loka. So this is how the law of karma works. It's very impersonal, it's not personal. Nothing is against us, because we are not, the Atma itself is not being subject to it. And it's this entity. And this entity Atma need not travel because it's all pervading, right? So it's like an example that I had heard a teacher give, not Baba, but I had heard another teacher give this example, and I'm sorry, I don't remember which teacher in India I had heard, and the teacher said, um, there is a house, and we deconstruct a house and we build a new house. But Atma remains the same, just that the new buildings are coming and going. So Atma need not, move around. So this is, in short, the teaching around, once again, that death is also nothing else but the dropping of an outer physical body and taking on a new physical body by the subtle body and the causal body as a conglomerate entering another womb. And what they do is they just take on the physical food body of the mother and father of the new womb. So the mother father could be bird, the mother father could be butterfly, the mother father could be human, but a whole new physical body is created. But the Atma is still all pervading and all intelligence, and it is having just the right experiences that it wants to have. So, regrets, I missed Shloka 18. I can go back to it, no problem. Let me go back to 17 and then 18. 17 says, Avinashitu tadviddhi yena sarvamidam tatam vinashamavyyasyasya na kaschit kartumarhati. And then 18 says, Antavanta ime dehaha nityasyokta shariranaha anashino prameyasya tasmat yutyasva bharata. So in 17, as you know, we were introduced by Lord to the fact that we are avinashi, we are indestructible, and that Atma is all pervading. So this we are clear. And in 18, so that is how Atma is. But then in the 18, Lord says, but what about Anatma? What about the bodies? And so Antavanta ime dehaha. So Antavanta means, and by the way, while Atma is non-perishable or unperishable, avinashi in verse 17, in verse 18 it says, and the bodies are perishable, which are belonging to the Atma. So they are surrounding the Atma, they belong to a certain Atma, but the body is perishable. So it's just a contrast. And also another thing, so that is what it means, that Antavanta perishable ime dehaha are these body, nityasya, which belong to the eternal, to the imperishable. So which belong to the eternal, which means Atma, imperishable what? Atma, and aprameyasya, to the unobjectifiable self. Sharirinaha means the self that has become attached to a certain body. So it's just a comparison between the self, which is anashina, imperishable, unobjectifiable by the senses, aprameya, which is nitya, and versus the bodies, dehaha, which are antavanta, perishable. So that is all it means. And then from there we had gone to 19, and 19 we have already done, where he introduced the akarta, non-actor, and the non-experiencer, abhokta. Then in 20 we went over how it does not, while the body undergoes 6 changes, the Atma undergoes no changes. Then in 21, it was Lord said, you must know Veda, you must know this Atma, which is unborn, which won't decay, which is Nitya, which is undying. And then in 22, the whole discussion on the body being changed, just like a person changes clothing, in the same way the jiva discards a body almost unemotionally, without pain, just like we change clothes at its own will. So there is no tragedy here. It is like at its own will, in its own evolutionary journey. And I will probably stop here at 22 itself, so that I can spend some time discussing with you, and then I will talk about 23, 24, 25 next time. And probably we will spend one more class discussing 12 to 25 all over again, because they are such amazing shlokas. So with that I end. Jai Ma, everyone.